Hey everyone, welcome to the Industry Show. I'm your host, Nitin Bajaj, and joining me today is Shelly Lefkoe. Shelly, welcome on the show.
Oh, it's so good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Pleasure is all ours, and thanks for making the time to be with us. Let's start with who is Shelly?
So I am a first and foremost mother of two extraordinary young women, and I was married for 36 years to one of the most extraordinary men on the planet. And who I am is someone who loves life. So that's me. And I have a passion in life, and it's the mission for my company, which is the Lefkoe Institute. And we help people live as the unlimited possibilities that they are, to help people rid themselves of the beliefs that are in the way of them being, doing, and having everything they want to be, do, and have, so they could live free, authentic, delicious lives.
It sounds like such a simple and easy goal, but having been on that path, and we all are, to grow and become who we want to become one day, it's not easy. So tell us, why do you do this?
Yeah, because it's easier than you think.
Yes.
um, it's so interesting, Nitin. It's like, why do I do it? It's like um, for me, it's what gets me out of bed in the morning. If ever I lost my husband 6 years ago, and my kids live in Hawaii and Utah. And, I have lots of friends and a great life, but I have to keep remembering um, to get myself out of bed and get in front of this computer and working with people all over the world, um, and seeing the impact that truly eliminating beliefs has on people's lives. And there are populations that I work with, people who've been survivors of sexual abuse. It's my
Mhm.
favorite population. People who just can't stand up for themselves or stay in abusive relationships, or young people who are just starting out in life and they have anxiety. And when I sit in front of people and these beliefs go away and I see their faces and I hear about what happened after our last session and they're free, it's like my heroin. It's just like my juice. And I always tell people that, there's a lot of trite sayings, do what you love.
Mhm.
But if you do what you love and it fuels you, work is something you do 8 hours, 7 hours, 10 hours, however much you work, that's a big part of your life. And if you love what you do, you'll live a good life. And I also think that making a difference, I have a belief that all people want to do is contribute. And anytime you make a difference in somebody's life or you contribute to somebody, it's the greatest feeling in the world. So that's why I do what I do.
That is so amazing, right? That's to have someone's progress and opening them up to a life that they could have but just didn't know. That's such a worthy cause to wake up to. So
Totally.
congratulations and kudos to for doing
Thank
what you do.
you.
Yeah,
So, and I owe it all to my husband for creating a process
sure.
that actually works and produces results. I'm
You
a
know,
results girl.
give us, we talked about, helping people change their beliefs. Tell us a little more about that and maybe even share an example or two of,
Sure.
who has benefited from this.
Yeah. So our philosophy is that underlying every pattern, I mean, something you can observe like procrastination,
Mhm.
constant anxiety. It could be a behavioral pattern or an emotional pattern. And underlying all of these patterns are beliefs, most of which are unconscious. So a belief is a statement about reality that you believe is the truth.
Mhm.
So you could know it's silly, but still believe it. So I've worked with a lot of Harvard PhDs who had the belief I'm stupid. So, I always give an example. If you believe people can't be trusted, you are not going to have a lot of close friends that you tell everything to.
Mm-hmm.
So our behavior is a function of our beliefs. And underlying every pattern, whether it's fear of public speaking or, as I said, anxiety or worrying about what people think of you, um, underlying all those patterns are these beliefs. And once you eliminate them, and I use the word very intentionally,
Mm-hmm.
eliminate, get rid of permanently, then there are possibilities. If you get rid of the belief people can't be trusted, now you'll meet somebody and you have a possibility. Should I trust them or shouldn't I trust them? Is this somebody that looks trustworthy? And then you make a choice. So it truly is about freedom. Um, yeah.
True. It's like opening up a door that you did not know existed, right? And
Very
then
often.
opens you up to so many different opportunities. How does how does this work? I mean, I'm sure it's different for every individual, and how deep rooted those beliefs are. But if you were to give us an idea of, typically it takes so many weeks or so many sessions, and
Yeah.
tell us a little more about that.
Yeah. So it's not so the process is the same for
Hmm.
everybody.
Yep.
And depending on this, how many beliefs you can eliminate in a session, I can go pretty fast, but I also honor people's style and what they
Right.
need. If you're working on a pattern like depression, that's going to be a lot of sessions. Now, it's not 10 years on the couch,
Right.
but it's going to be a lot, 20, 30, whatever sessions.
Hmm.
If you're working on procrastination, it could be 4 or 5 sessions. If you get rid of fear of public speaking, we do that in 4 sessions. So it depends on what you're working on and how you work. But you said something I want to address because it's very interesting. People always say, these deep held beliefs.
Hmm.
Beliefs live in your mind, right? A belief is something that's inside your head. It's not deep. It's not in
Hmm.
your heart. It's not in your liver. It's in your mind. And so there are beliefs, and our beliefs stay with us for a very specific reason. And that is that we think we see our beliefs in the world, or we saw them. So let's assume you're criticized a lot as a child, and you conclude, I'm not good enough. And then I go through this process, and at one point I say, doesn't it seem like you saw I'm not good enough? And everybody says, yes, of course I saw it. Anything you could see has a color, shape, and location. So
Hmm.
you can't see I'm not good enough. And when, that's only one step in the process, but
Hmm.
there is something that happens when I work with people that's not kind of airy fairy or woo woo. We've done scientific research on this.
Hmm.
We've produced statistically significant behavior changes with people with stress. Um, so, so it depends on what you're working on. There are people who want to have, like I talk about living an intentional life.
Hmm.
One of the things that I think is that people go through life, a lot of people go through life very unconscious. You get up in the morning, you go to work, you have a day at work, you come home, you have dinner, you watch TV. It's like you meet somebody, you have fun on the date, you have a good time, then you have sex, then you go, oh, this is good. And next thing you know, you're in a relationship, but you never stop and say, what qualities do I want in the person that I'm going to be with? You come out of school, you're offered a job, you take the job, pays a lot of money, but you never stop and think, what kind of job, what career, what really lights my fire and lights me up. So I talk about living a conscious life, living an intentional life. And if people really want to have that, they can work with me for a while and get rid of look at every aspect of their life and say, my relationship's great. I started talking, came up with something a couple of days ago, that if you had a room full of plants,
Hmm.
would you water just one? And yet we put all our focus and intention on our career or on usually it's our career.
Yep.
We put all our focus and intention on working out, and we're working out people, but to have a life where all of those different areas of your life are singing is what I love. So when people come to me, I say, what do you want to work on? They tell me, we work on it, and then they can leave and not have that problem anymore. Or they could say, okay, now I want to work on my relationships.
Right. Makes sense. As you work with, this vast demographic across the globe, I'm sure there's a few challenges. What's the one big challenge that you tend to face more often than others?
Um, It's interesting because I find that most people have the same problems and the same beliefs. I have a client in Kuwait, I'll tell you the only one challenge I think I've ever really had globally. I worked with a woman in Saudi Arabia,
Mm-hmm.
and her problem was that her mother-in-law treats her disrespectfully, and as does her husband, and she wants to leave him.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, well, what do you believe that has you not leave him? And she goes, they'll take my kids. He will get my kids. Sorry. And I said, well, and she goes, no. He will get my kids. I mean, that's the truth. It's not a belief. And so that was challenging because she lives in a culture
Mm-hmm.
where a woman leaves her husband and he gets the kids, and she can't live alone because it's not allowed.
Yeah.
But there aren't many cultures that are so strict, but I would say that's probably the biggest challenge I would have, is if somebody's culture wouldn't let
True.
them do things. Yeah.
True. And that can be very limiting. On the other end of it, as you're opening these doors for people and there's that wow factor that you get to experience,
Yeah.
what's the one big opportunity you you're targeting now going forward?
Um, with that person,
In general, if you think about this as an approach or as a business or as a service to the community, is there a big opportunity that you see that you can kind of club this under, or even just as a north star for yourself that you're aiming
yes.
for?
Yes. So this process has the potential, and I'm going to be kind of really lofty now, to create peace in the Middle East, to end racism. So we worked with somebody who was a skinhead,
Mhm.
and we did it on national television years ago. And he got rid of the belief that Blacks were dangerous, right on the air. And he ended up going around to other skinhead clubs and talking to people and saying, we're wrong. This is not the way to go. And he created a little program to help people see when using our belief process. This could end recidivism, or reduce, not end, but reduce recidivism. We did a study, a research study, working with people who were getting out, about to be released from prison. And again, we produced statistically significant behavior changes in these criminals. So criminals have beliefs, like there was a fascinating story, I think. I had two of them. One shot people. He didn't kill people, but he shot people. And he said, Shelly, I shot somebody over a $5 bill. And his belief was that if people get in your face and razz you and you don't shoot them, you'll lose respect in the hood. And that's what his dad had told him. And after he got rid of that belief, he went to his dad, of course, in prison. And his dad said, I was wrong. It's not worth it. Somebody beat women, and he said he had the belief, if you do something wrong, you deserve to be punished. And the way to be punished is to be beat. That's what happened to him when he was a child. He's not a bad person. So this process, Nitin, has the potential to end suffering in a tremendous amount of different areas. So my dream, and some of the opportunities that come to me sometimes, people always say to me, I want to get this work out into the world. So that's what I see as we train more and more people who have more and more passions of their own, I think they're going to start taking this work into the world. The only problem with it so far is that it only works if you have an unwanted pattern. So you have to want to change, and we'll do all the work with you. But if you come to me and say, I'm happy being a racist, I'm not interested in changing, I can't help you.
True.
So that's the
But I love
downside.
the mission. I love the mission that you're making a positive change to the world, one belief at a time.
Yes. And I
So,
have to say one more thing because I can't ever not say this. My other passion in life. So for 30 years, I've been working with people, and most of our beliefs and all of our self-esteem beliefs come from the first 6 to 8 years of our childhoods, and mostly from our parents. So as I listened to my mother or my parents ignored me, I concluded I'm not important. I got criticized, I concluded I'm not good enough. I wasn't given affection, I concluded I'm not lovable. They yelled at me when I made mistakes, and I concluded mistakes and failures are bad. So many, many years ago, I decided that if we could transform the way in which people parent, we could change the world. And I mean, really change the world. And all we have to do is train parents to be conscious of what they say and do and what their kids are concluding. So if you're walking around going, oh God, life is hard and I can't pay the bills, and your kid's going to conclude life is hard and money is scarce and hard to get. So be aware as a parent of what your children are concluding when they walk away from you.
that's huge. That's absolutely huge. It's not just, at one end, I may have certain beliefs, but then I'm passing them on. So yeah, that's hugely important. So
Yeah,
thanks for sharing that with us.
yeah, you're welcome.
Shelly, as you look back on, your illustrious career spanning so many different demographics and styles and challenges and the lives you've changed, are there instances that stand out to you, both from you know, things that you expected will work and did not, and maybe became lessons that you learned from, or on the other end, a success story that you're really proud of and would like to share with us?
Mm, well, I'm proud of, I'm just proud of the way we run our company. Wow, I didn't, that was a complete download. I did not think I was going to say that. Um,
Hey, you should be proud of what you do, and you're doing some amazing work, right?
But
So
it's the integrity, Nitin. You
yes,
know, my husband, I always used to say my husband wouldn't cheat the IRS if he knew he could get away with it. And for those international listeners, that's
right.
the Internal Revenue Service.
Yes.
He wouldn't cheat on his taxes if he knew he'd get away with it.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of sales techniques and, manipulation stuff. And,
Mhm.
we really, one of my biggest things that you'll hear later is, I always taught my kids, if you don't treat me with dignity and respect because I'm your mother. You treat people with dignity and respect because every human being deserves to be treated with dignity and respect. And I think the success I have, and I want to say this because it's important, is not measured in how many people work for me or how many dollars I make a year. My success is that there's nothing bad written about us on the internet after 30 years of business. And I'm very, very proud of that. And so there are times where it's really tempting to do something that's going to make more money or that's going to get more people. And we always, Rodney, who's just always he works for me, always keeps me in that sense of, wait a minute, is this the best way to do it? Is this the way people are going to get the most value? So I think having integrity is really important. We went bankrupt many, many years ago, and I was crying in the living room. And my husband came in and he said, "What's wrong? Why are you crying?" And I said, why am I crying? We're losing our house. And we had a gorgeous house in Westport, Connecticut with a swimming pool. I said, we're losing everything. Why am I crying? And he looked at me and he said, first of all, we're not losing everything. We have each other. We have our child at the time or children. He said, but I want to ask you a question. I said, what? He said, if we had to live on a desert island and eat coconuts, could we be happy? And I went, yeah, we could. And he said, so what are you crying about? Yeah, obviously, we're not going to live on a desert island and eat coconuts, but it was just, and it was really, really a powerful moment
Mhm.
because I got, you know what? It's a house, but I have him, I have my kids, I'm good. And it was a magic moment.
It really puts things in perspective, right? The last 2 years for a lot of us has put a lot of things in perspective. One being intentional about what you really want to do, where you want to spend your time. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't wish that situation upon anyone, but it does bring, what really life is about, and what are the things and people that you should really care about.
Yeah. Yeah. And your beliefs will guide you. Morty's
Yes.
belief was we made it once, we'll make it again, or we're not going to starve. If you believe you're going to starve, you're going to be very scared. If you believe that you can make it in life, that you'll always land on your feet, then, it's just a blip on the radar screen.
So true. Well, thank you for sharing that with us. I know it can be easy, uh, you know, being vulnerable, but also transparent. It's not a good experience to have. So I really appreciate, you opening up about this with us. Now, I want to talk about something that's my favorite part of the show, which is
Yeah.
the one-line life lessons.
Yeah.
These are not beliefs, these are not quotes, these are things that you have come about or you have come to adopt,
Yeah.
and are action items that people can take away. So I would love for you to share your life lessons with us.
Okay. So my mother was my first guru. She
Mhm.
was brilliant. And she used to say, everything in life is relationship.
Mhm.
And it is, she also used to say, with honey, you get money. If you're kind and loving and nice to people, they will be to you. And so I think that uh, for me, that's one of the things that I live by. Everything in life is relationship.
Mhm.
And if you're connected and you relate to people and you treat them with dignity and respect, that's very important. One of the quotes that I love was from one of my old teachers who used to say, life is like a yardstick. And I taught this to my kids, unfortunately. Life is like a yardstick. And most people live somewhere in the first 2 feet, 11 and 3/4 inches. What life's about is that last quarter of an inch.
Wow.
It's playing in that, you know, and it's funny because one of my daughters is a big wave surfer in Hawaii, and
Mhm.
the other one does canyoneering and climbing and rock climbing and all that stuff.
Nice.
So they both took it very seriously.
That's
I asked my girlfriend, I said, why didn't you slap me when I was telling them that?
but that's so amazing. I mean, again, going back to parenting and what you said, this is what you want to pass on, right? That anything is possible.
Yeah. And here's my biggest life lesson.
Yeah.
And I will tell you how it got enforced when it became really real.
Mhm.
So I've always talked about be a human being,
Mhm.
not a human doing, right?
Nice.
So for the workaholics listening to me, my work very much talks about being a human being. So when you die, one of your last interviews gave my favorite Maya Angelou quote
Mhm.
about people forget what you said, but they'll never forget how you made them feel.
Mhm.
At my husband's memorial, were 100 people there, and every one of them that shared, which was over half the people, and they would have been still sharing. I said, okay, enough. But what they said about him, Nitin, and everybody listening, he was the most loving man I ever met. I knew him, two people said this, I knew him 40 years, and I never heard him say a bad word about anybody.
Wow.
My daughter said, they said he was present, he listened, he cared. But my daughter said, I not only knew I was loved unconditionally every day of my life, but to never feel judged. That was my father. Nobody said he wrote 3 books, he built this business, he created a process, he blah, 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 blah. No one cares. No one cares what your GPA is. Nobody cares how much money you make. Nobody cares how many businesses you own. It's interesting at best.
Yep.
What you say interests people. Who you are inspires them.
So
who
true,
you
so
are.
beautiful.
What I'm not a person who gets impressed with movie stars or blah, 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 but I am impressed with people who come to me and say, I have anger issues. Can you help me? That's inspiring. I beat women. I don't want to do that anymore. That's inspiring, right? I'm cheating on my wife. I don't want to do that. Can you help me? That's inspiring. So I think that's one of my biggest ones. Love well. Because when you die and you look back at your life, you want people to say about you, sorry, she loved well. And that's what I do. I love my clients. I mean, I love them, and they get that. I love my friends, and they get that. And I love my kids. And if anybody loves you well, it's a gift. It's just the greatest gift. Love well, speak your truth, be your authentic self. It's very hard to be somebody else, but it's really easy to be yourself. Yes. I get on these podcasts and people say to me, do you want the questions? And I say, no, because I don't care who I'm talking. You're going to get me. This is me. And I'm not everybody's cup of tea. Some people might not love me. And that's the other life lesson. And it's not a lesson that I think you could learn. I think it's something you have to work on.
Yes.
No matter what you do, this is the best thing we ever told our kids. This is my husband. No matter what you do, somebody's not going to like it. So you may as well do what you want. But before you do anything, stop and ask yourself, what might the consequences of my actions be? And do I want to live with those consequences? You teach your kids that, and they will never grow up to be one of those people like I was, who worried about what does this one think and what does that one think. And there's a belief, what makes me good enough is having other people think well of me.
Right.
And guess what? Not everybody's going to think well of you. And when I got rid of that belief, you guys, it was my Martin Luther King Jr. moment, as I was free at last. Yeah, and it's not, I don't care what people think. It isn't that. It just doesn't define me anymore.
Yeah.
Some people might say, I don't like her, she's too out there. And some people might say, I love her, she's so out there. And so live your truth, live your life.
Extremely important, right? We don't need that validation. It's really go after what you believe in and just go for it, unless those are beliefs that you want to get rid of.
Yeah. And in my natural confidence program, you can get rid of those beliefs.
That's awesome.
All of them.
Shelly, thank you for sharing those one-line life lessons. And to our audience, we have an entire collection, including what Shelly shared with us on our website, on Instagram, or wherever you socialize online. So go check them out. Shelly, thank you once again for making the time to be with us, opening up your heart, sharing your stories, and continuing to change lives one belief at a time. We really appreciate you being here with us today.
Thank you. That was wonderfully fun.
Likewise. Thanks so much.